Clash of the Rams, the sports talk show. I'm your host, Jeremy Hayes, and along with me we have Davison Perez.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing, fellas?
Jared Doherty.
How we doing?
And Eric Ruza. All right, guys, 1 week, the Super Bowl. Basically the Christmas of sports for me. I don't know what you guys think, but I definitely think so. But before we get into talking about the Super Bowl, for our Super Bowl episode, let's discuss the games that happened last week and all the championship games. And we'll start off with the Broncos beating the Patriots. Very controlled game by the Broncos, but what you guys think what's your overall feeling of the Patriots' performance and how the Broncos got it done? Davison?
Well, if you ask me, the blame on the Patriots end can go all over the place. It can go to the defense and Aqib Talib being injured. It could go to what I'm going to say is Tom Brady. I think he deserves the majority of the blame because he wasn't accurate at all. As we saw, there was no snow, there was no wind. The conditions were perfect. It was like 64 degrees that day, and he couldn't make a pass. He was overthrowing Matthew Slater. He overthrew Edelman, and he overthrew Austin Collie in the first half, and he couldn't really recover from there. So yeah, most of the blame I feel like goes to Tom Brady.
I think overall the team played poorly, and I think they were set up to play poorly. They were depending on these injury-prone guys on offense. If you want to talk about Gronk and Danny Amendola, they did not step up with one target to Danny Amendola. Matthew Slater gets one target, his first target of the entire season, and it's the same as Danny Amendola in the AFC Championship game. But defense, the fact that this defense was set up to be a team to fail once Aqib Talib goes out, which I question his toughness for two AFC Championships in a row, but I would definitely blame the defense. They could not get Peyton Manning off the field. The Broncos had the ball for 11 more minutes than the Patriots this game. The defense could not get them off, and Peyton Manning absolutely did perfect, but I'll let you go.
I think it's a simple explanation is that the Patriots lost to a far better team across the board. The offense was better, the defense was better, special teams was better. Whatever it was, the Broncos did it better. This team, the Patriots, went as far as they possibly could. They were decimated by injuries on all sides of the ball. Nobody expected them to go to the AFC Championship midway through the year. They did. They lost to a better team like they should have. A lot of people going in. I don't know many people that picked the Patriots to win this game. And it turned out that the better team won. I think it's simple as that. The game was pretty much dominated by the Broncos because they're just simply the better team. You cannot win with your two or three best players out on defense. Your best offensive weapon is injured. One's in jail. I mean, you can't win that way.
I don't really want to place this Patriots loss on injuries because, face it, without Wilfork, they were 9-4. Without Mayo, they were 9-3. Without Gronk, they were 8-3. So this team was a winning team. The AFC is such a pitiful conference that anyone could get up there. I knew that the Patriots were going to make it to that game. They could beat anybody in that league other than the Broncos, and I agree with you that the Broncos were the best team in the AFC, but I think it's a shot in the dark. Anyone could have made it to that
You don't
game.
want to blame the loss and injuries, but let me ask you, if they have Will Fork, if they have Tommy Kelly, if they have Gerard Mayo, if they have Rob Gronkowski, if they have Aqib Talib, do they win that game?
Did they win it last year against the Ravens with those guys?
No, they didn't, but they won the first game against the Broncos with Rob Gronkowski. They didn't have him in this game, and the offense couldn't do anything.
And that's where you give the credit to the Broncos. I think they really stepped up and did it more so than the Patriots prepared for it.
If you ask me, guys, I feel like the Patriots really dropped the ball, and I thought it was interesting that they were kind of banking on their defense in terms of helping them win the game. When we all know their defense hasn't been complete, first of all, and it hasn't even been tops in the league for a grand majority of the year. What they've done to win games throughout the course of this year is depend on their offense, depend on Tom Brady, and have Tom Brady get the job done. But now, with Kimbrel Tompkins not being in and things like that, they were focusing more on their defense. And once Aqib Talib got injured, it was as if their whole defensive scheme got terminated and got collapsed. And then, it was a ruckus from
And
there.
that's where the Patriots and Bill Belichick, the GM and the coach, deserves a lot of blame, is that you lose one player on defense and you can't win. So Talib goes out, you have nobody else to put in there. So whose fault is that? That's because the defense is poor. They relied on one player in Talib all year long. When he was healthy, he was the best corner in the game. He was shut down. The first few weeks of the season, the Patriots defense, we said, wow, this is unbelievable. The defense is finally good, and it's all because of Talib. Then he got hurt midway through the year. He battled through it all season. He gets hurt in the AFC Championship again, and you see the difference. The The Broncos and Peyton Manning just absolutely killed the secondary all game long.
Thank you. Absolutely agree. They dropped the ball with that, relying on a defense on a guy who gets injured 2 AFC Championship games in a row. Thank you.
And something before we have to move on to the next topic, but something that we didn't give the Broncos credit for. Just if you're a fan of football, that was perfect. Belichick got Belichick. It was situational football. If you want to go into the game in depth, what won the game? How about Matt Prater kicking in the end zone every play, making Brady start at the 20? It was the perfect strategy. Their defense isn't great, but it was good enough to stop them from getting any points on the board. And that's the type of defense that Belichick runs, and it worked for them. And like we talked about, I think we all agree the better team won.
Absolutely.
In the end. All right, but we got to move on to the next game. Seattle Seahawks. I don't know if you heard what Richard Sherman said, but he's the best cornerback in the league, according to himself, and his team is going to the Super Bowl. The Seahawks are back in the Super Bowl for the first time since they went up against the Steelers. And, I mean, I don't know what you guys think. Do they have a shot at winning it? But before we go on to that, I want to focus on the fact of they beat the 49ers, the team that was already there. Do they have the experience? They apparently did against the 49ers. What do you think of the game? It was a close game. It was a lot better game. I think we can agree it was a better overall game than the Patriots one. What do you think about the game itself as far as the analysis?
So with the game with the Seahawks and the 49ers, we've been waiting all season long. I know the Seahawks had a 13-3 record, and they had a very good season. But we were kind of waiting for Russell Wilson to kind of step up and kind of be that upper elite quarterback, just like an Andrew Luck or like a Robert Griffin III, even though he didn't show it this season, or like a Colin Kaepernick. And he kind of did the same this game. He managed the game effectively. It wasn't pretty early on with that fumble on the first play of the game, but Russell Wilson, he did a pretty good job of managing that game. Obviously, having Marshawn Lynch, the beast, as your running back helps a lot. But I think Russell Wilson played a good game, and I think the better team, which everybody thought the 49ers were the better team coming into this game, the more complete team. But I think, in my opinion, the Seahawks were the better team, and they had the better defense, obviously, towards the end of the game. So. Yeah.
I absolutely agree with Davison. I think that Seattle's defense was superior to the 49ers, but I think those two teams have the two top defenses in the league. But it came down to Marshawn Lynch. That guy is a monster. Huge game against the 49ers. And so if that can carry over, we'll see. And we'll have a lot more to talk about in the next series. But yes, Marshawn Lynch was definitely the key, and then the defense, those two right there were the reasons why Seattle is moving on to the Super Bowl.
I think both teams were very, very similar. They have great defenses. They have young, dynamic quarterbacks who can throw the ball. They can run a little bit. But like you guys said, the running game separates the Seahawks. I think a lot of people throughout the year thought that the Seahawks were maybe the best team in the NFL. They're almost unbeatable at home. They're right up there with Denver as far as being one of the best teams in the league, if not the best. So I think the better team won that game. I know San Francisco has been in the NFC Championship game 3 years in a row, but I think Seattle obviously shows that they're ready for the prime time. They have young, dynamic players on both sides of the ball, and they're ready to show it off in the Super Bowl.
In a way,
go ahead.
In a way, I kind of think it was good that the 49ers lost, because I couldn't imagine them going into the Super Bowl had they won without Bowman in the lineup after that leg injury that he suffered. So. Again, I think the Seahawks deserve to be there, and it's going to be an interesting Super Bowl.
All right, and now I jumped ahead of myself in the opening for this discussion, but obviously Richard Sherman, just like my opening, kind of stole the show as far as the win. So we don't have a lot of time on this subject, about 3 minutes. I want to kind of discuss what you guys thought of the whole Sherman fiasco and just his personality altogether. Jared, if you want to start off.
Yeah, no, I absolutely enjoyed what he did. He has the right to do that. I think he, right now, is the best cornerback right now for the best defense. I think he has a right to do what he did, and he's stepped up and he's proven. He backs it up. I think he backs it up. I think it's fine. I think what he said was a little over-exaggerated. I mean, not over-exaggerated, but overdone in media, but I have no problem with it.
He has the right to do it, but is it the best thing for his team? Of course not.
And that's kind of the point that I'm leading to. I don't have a problem with him, showing emotion after the game. That's it's kind of what happens instinctively, innately when you win a game, a game of that magnitude. On top of that,
literally 2 minutes.
At the end of the day, you play for the National Football League, and it is a business, and you gotta be professional in those kind of situations. and it wasn't the greatest PR move for him. He doesn't look good in the public light, but I don't think it was a big deal at all. I hated the fact that they were labeling him as a thug and like all of this extra stuff and taking away, like he said, from the great game that the defense played. So no problem with it, but I think he should have been a little bit more professional in that situation.
No, I disagree with these guys on that. I have no problem with it. I do have a problem with it. Win with some class. Act like you've been there before. You don't go off like that.
He hasn't been
post-game
there before, that's the
interview.
thing.
He said act.
He hasn't been in the Super Bowl before, and he's taking the attention away from his team. Yesterday, when the teams got to New York, there was dozens of media at his stall and nobody at Russell Wilson's stall. That's because everybody wants to talk about him and all his antics. The media obviously overblew it. He's not a thug. He's not whatever. That's ridiculous. He made himself look silly by going off like he did in the post game. He should have just did the interview, win with some class, don't bring extra attention that's not needed on you, and that's what he did.
Got about 2 minutes on the segment.
I think every once in a while, being here in New England, you're used to the Patriots way, the boring Belichick conference, everything. I think every once in a while, it's great to see a guy come out with a lot of emotion, and maybe it was an intimidation kind of factor, and maybe he was doing that. He's a smart guy, graduated from Stanford with a 3.9. He's a smart guy. He's trying to play that evil villain kind of persona, and I think he's doing it right. And on Sunday, if he backs it up and they win the Super Bowl because of him or he has an impact in it, he has all the right to what he did.
And that's exactly where I'm at. I think that you know what to expect when you talk about Richard Sherman. It's not like this is the first time that we've heard of him talking smack and things like that. You kind of come to expect it. Again, I'm not cool with the fact that he was being all unprofessional on live television. That's never good for your image or for your team's image. And like Eric said, he took away from the great game that they played. But I don't think that it's too big of a deal as the media kind of wanted to spin it to be and all of this extracurricular stuff.
All right, before I say anything, I definitely agree. I don't think he should have done it, but at the same time, like, the racial slur backlash that happened should have never happened. It was pretty disgusting to see Twitter, what people were saying about him. But overall, if you know Richard Sherman as a guy, he's a really smart guy. Yeah, he's a little cocky, but he's also very self-centered as a player. You see him go on different shows, it's always talking about him. They never discuss the Seahawks. They discuss how he's the best cornerback. And that it's not even a thing like, oh, he doesn't choose the topics, but that's what he comes on to talk about. So I don't want to hear any of this, oh, but he's a great guy. That's still him. That's his personality. He's not the most generous guy.
At the end of the day, you don't know Richard Sherman. We just know what's perceived, what's seen in the media,
exactly,
and what's presented about him.
Yeah.
We don't really know Richard Sherman or how his relationships are with the people in his team. We don't know him. So I'm not of the business of talking crap about somebody's character and who they are as a person when I don't even know them or haven't had any conversations with them. I don't know what they're about.
To defend myself, that's why I feel like he needs to add, because he actually, if you have seen behind the scenes stuff, he seems like the coolest guy. Like, he's a guy I would want on the show. But it's just one of those things where he comes off like the world's always against him. Like, nobody, like, oh, he was picked in the 3rd round. He has that chip on his shoulder. It's just like a weird way to approach the media, I think.
One last thought on this. It's a different example out of nowhere, but when you compare these two guys, I like what Richard Sherman does in a sense of he's coming out and saying it rather than a guy like Johnny Gomes, who are very similar, who pitches questions beforehand to ask about him, to boast about himself. I respect Richard Sherman more than Johnny Gomes because of that, but that's just an afterthought.
All right, well, we got to move on, but I'm sure this will be a discussion that'll come up during the Super Bowl topic. But we're going to move on to our about 8 to 10 minute Super Bowl topic. We're just going to discuss the game. And I think the first thing that we have to cover is number 1 offense versus number 1 defense. Last time this happened, it was a good game. It was the Steelers and Cardinals, and that was probably the best Super Bowl I've ever watched. So, Davison, we'll start with you. Which do you think is going to be the deciding factor if we're just focusing on those two, the offense versus the defense?
Personally, I think it's going to be tough for Denver to defeat the Seahawks defense. I've always been of the mindset that defense wins you championships, and I feel like the Seahawks have what the Patriots didn't have when they faced the Broncos. They have a secondary that's actually very formidable. They have Cam Chancellor, they have Richard Sherman, who we just finished talking about. They have Earl Thomas. They have all of these Pro Bowl-esque corners and safeties that it's going to be tough for the weapons that Peyton Manning has to get open, to get. It's not going to be like a Aqib Talib situation where you have to put your best corner on Demaryius Thomas. It's not going to be that way because you have 4 qualified guys in that backfield that are going to be able to get the job done, and their front 7 it speaks for itself. So I think that's going to be a very big topic for the Super Bowl is their defense.
Here's another defense topic, but I'm going to talk about Denver's defense, their run defense. They're a top 10 in the league. They shut down New England. So we know that Seattle has probably one of the best running backs in football right now. So I went and looked at it. I wanted to see how Marshawn Lynch has done in games against good top defensive teams, run defensive teams. So I looked at it. Against Arizona, Carolina, and San Francisco, I think those are very in the top 5. And against them, Seattle is 4-2, and Marshawn Lynch has been effective and a factor in all but one of those games. And the first one was week 1 against Carolina. So I think that's huge. So then that brings it on to what you were talking about, Seattle's offense. And I think their offense can prove against Denver's defense, which I think that now gives a better advantage for Seattle.
I like that you mentioned that. Just to touch on it real quick, I feel like the run isn't going to be as big a factor as most people think, just because, like you said, Denver's a top 10 run defense team, and the Seahawks are actually tied with them for 7th. So I don't think it's going to be a huge running game at all, and I think that's really going to open up the passing lanes for both Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson.
Well, I disagree. I think the running game is going to be a factor because you talked about the secondary of Seattle is incredible. So is Peyton Manning going to be able to throw the ball effectively? Is he going to be able to use his 5 different receivers that he likes to use, or are they going to have to rely on the running game? And if they do, I don't know if Denver's running game is something that they can rely on. They really haven't had to do that. Will they be able to do it in this game against a top defense like Seattle? I'm not sure, but I think that's going to be something that you have to focus on in this game, because Peyton Manning has been lights out throwing the ball for weeks on end now. He hasn't really had. The last time that he didn't really, have big, huge passing stats was the Patriots game, when they beat them in overtime. So will he be able to throw against the secondary? I think is a huge thing. If he doesn't, they're going to have to rely on the run, which I don't know if that's going to be in their favor at all.
And that's where I definitely agree with you, is I think the run is important in this game, because also I don't think Peyton Manning really has been tested with pass defense. I really don't think he's been tested this season yet against a top pass defense, unless there's another team that you guys think.
The only team that's remotely close to the Seahawks secondary is the Chiefs, and they're not even that great to begin with. So
there's a big gap in between there.
Yeah, there's a huge gap in between there.
And if you look it up too, like the yards per game, Houston is in there too, and for the
they had a great season.
And when Peyton Manning faced Houston, he threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. So if you even want to consider that a test, which I don't even think it is, Peyton Manning has not been really tested yet, but that's also going to be a key. Can Peyton Manning step up in the Super Bowl? And maybe he can, maybe he can't.
Well, I'm gonna cut you off right there because it's actually perfect. Because we're running out of time, I want to discuss the quarterbacks in this. We have one guy that's going to be a Hall of Famer, and some people might consider one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And then we have Russell Wilson, who, honestly, it reminds me of Tom Brady, where his first year he kind of went on for the ride, but then he showed up for the big game. That's why I feel like Russell Wilson has to do in this game. But as far as the quarterback matchup, what you expect to see from these guys, Eric?
Well, I hate to go this way, but the legacy thing with Peyton Manning is when he gets into these games, he tends, to shrink a little bit. Will he do it in this game? I don't know. This is a big thing. Is he going to win his second Super Bowl, or is he going to lose again and be 1-2 or 1-3 in the Super Bowl?
10-12 in the playoffs too.
Right. So this is a big. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Peyton Manning to win this game, to cement that legacy, to get the second one and prove that he's one of the greatest playoff performers of all time, because he hasn't done that yet. He took a step last week with his performance, but will he be able to do it in this game against a great defense, against a great secondary, to win that second one that's been eluding him for so long? I don't know. I think a lot of pressure is on Peyton Manning in this game. Russell Wilson comes in kind of under the radar. I think that's probably a good thing for him. There's not a ton of pressure on him. not everybody's really talking about him. They're talking about Peyton Manning. So I think that's a big factor in this game, is the pressure aspect of it, because Peyton, everybody's looking to him to perform so well, and Russell Wilson's kind of under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a big opportunity for Russell Wilson to step up and for Peyton Manning. Both men have a lot to prove. Russell Wilson's Peyton Manning, literally, he has a lot of critics at him. This is his year. He's Sportsman of the Year. So this should be his year. He has to go in there and win the Super Bowl at his brother's home field. And so there's a lot on the line for Peyton Manning. There really is. Because if he chokes again, it's just going to open the floodgates again. Is Peyton Manning even a top quarterback right now? Even though him and Brady are the two elite quarterbacks, but will Peyton Manning go down in history as really that guy if he chokes again? And so Russell Wilson has a chance to prove who he can be in this game. And I think Russell Wilson is going to have a good game because Denver's pass defense is not great. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we'll see. I think he has better targets than Tom Brady did. So,
yeah, I'm just going to piggyback off of what Jared just said. Denver's pass defense isn't just kind of not good. It's god-awful. It's like they're 27th in the league in pass defense, and I think Russell Wilson is just going to have a field day, even though his receivers aren't top-notch receivers, but I think he's going to have a field day with that. I think he's going to have a field day with that pass defense. Champ Bailey's in his first Super Bowl. I don't think he's going to step up like he envisions in his brain with him being in his first Super Bowl. But I'm just really worried about Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos offense because they're going to be playing in cold weather. They're in New York in the brisk middle of winter, and the Seahawks are a physical team, and they'll hit you really hard, and hits hurt more in the cold. And I don't think that the Denver Broncos wide receivers are tough enough to take some of those hard hits and get back up and like nothing happened and keep making plays. I don't think it's going to be a good formula for them.
Yeah, like I said, he's got a lot to prove. We've said it over and over in this segment.
I think we all agree on that.
Yeah, for sure.
He's got a lot.
Can he beat this defense? Can he win another one? I mean, there's so many things that he has to prove to cement that legacy, like I've said over and over again. And to be honest with you, I'm trending to the way that he's not going to do it in this game. I think there's a lot of factors against him in this game that are kind of pushing me towards that Seattle's going to win this game.
And just his history and his background as a player.
And if Seattle's defense can get to Peyton Manning, that's even more reason, because we're talking about Seattle's defense compared to New England, who I think ESPN said that there was 3 hurries, but I didn't see anything.
I was just going to say
bizarre.
that Peyton Manning was not touched in that game last week once. He stood back there. He fired at will against a terrible secondary. This week, it's going to be a totally different story. So will he be able to overcome that? That's the big story going into this game.
Definitely.
All right, well, we got to move on to our final predictions, but we definitely have legacy, we have good running backs, we have trash talking. It's going to make up for a pretty good
And the weather element.
And the weather element's just beautiful.
Awesome.
I love it. I love it. But we're going to start with you, Davison. I want your prediction who's going to win, the final score, and just about 45-second analysis about what you think is going to happen in the game.
My prediction is going to be 28-20 Seahawks win in New Jersey. And the reason is just because, again, to reiterate, that defense is something to take into account. And I don't like to put weather as a factor, but I think weather is going to be a significant factor. The defense can get some pressure on the quarterback. Just like my guys here said, they can definitely get some pressure on Peyton Manning. He's definitely going to get touched this game, and I think that's going to disrupt him. I don't think Peyton's going to have a problem getting downfield, but when it comes to red zone defense, I think the Seahawks are one of the best in the league. So that is going to be the ultimate defeat of Peyton Manning.
All right, well, my prediction is the score, say 2017, and Denver wins this game. And also, I'm going to go on a little rant here. So if you are a New England fan, this is targeted towards New England people, all of us maybe New England fans. If you're watching this game, in the bottom of your heart, I have a new heart right now. I just got started. I have a new heart. And in the bottom of my heart, I really want to see Denver go in there and absolutely win this game, and Wes Welker have a huge, impactful game. Why? Because the Patriots team, this Patriots way, the one everyone praises them, this team let Wes Welker go for nothing because they're Patriots way, and Wes Welker goes to Denver, takes out your defensive guy. You lose the game because of that. So I want to see it go, and I want to see Wes Welker go and hold win the Super Bowl. So then maybe in the offseason, Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft can pull something out of their strings and maybe say, hey, maybe we're going to build a team around Tom Brady because he's 37, windows closing, and they have to build a team. And then we're going to have Austin Collie being your number 2 receiver in the AFC.
You realize you set a fire now next week. We're probably going to have a huge debate
That's
about
going to
that.
be a huge thing.
but
Off-season
we'll
talk
see.
of the NFL.
We'll see.
Eric,
All
take it away.
Eric?
I kind of hinted at this the last time in the last segment. I like Seattle in this game. I think it'll be a fairly low-scoring game. 24-21, I think Seattle's going to win. I think the defense will be the answer for them. They'll hold Peyton Manning in check. I think he'll probably throw a couple picks in there somewhere like he normally does in these games because they're going to get to him. He's going to have trouble against that secondary. The weather thing, I don't know if it's really going to be that big of a factor. It's going to be close to 40 degrees. I don't know if there's going to be any kind of snow or rain or anything like that. I think it'll be fairly good conditions. I think he'll be able to throw the ball, but the real reason he won't be able to throw the ball is the defense and not so much the weather. So I like Seattle in this game. I like their defense against the Broncos offense, and I think Seattle is going to win the Super Bowl.
Just like how I always say, never pick against Tom Brady in a playoff game. I still never pick Peyton Manning in a playoff game. I'm sorry, that's just history. Him and Dan Marino, the only 2 guys who are considered top 50 quarterbacks, and they have a below 500 average. So I'm picking Seattle Seahawks 23-20, a close game. The most exciting part of the game, it's going to be a sloppy game, I think. I feel like you're going to have a lot of nervousness amongst both teams. But pay attention to those 5-5 heavy guys that are snapping the ball and rushing for the passer. Because this is going to be old school football, and it's going to be really fun to watch both offensive line and defensive line go at it for both teams.
You're going to have some negative flag for that Dan Marino on your Facebook.
Yeah.
Your Facebook fans are going to have a
Probably,
fit.
yeah.
And no of these pass interference calls. Take away those 2. None of that. None of that crap.
All right, guys. But, yeah, let's hope it's a good game. We don't want another boring Super Bowl. We don't want to take a step back. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see what happens. We have, 3 Seahawks and 1 Bronco.
Yep. Denver wins Super Bowl.
Lone Wolf.
See what happens.
We'll see if you're right. But
New heart.
It's good to have you back, Jared.
I'm back. I'm alive.
is the heart off?
Glad you're healthy.
New heart?
I'm alive. It is a pig heart, and Denver is going to do it for me.
So is that literally a new heart or, spiritually?
No,
you have a new
yeah.
heart? Both?
We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
All
Flag
right.
football game, Clash of the Rams. We'll see how it goes then.
All right.
There you go.
So, guys, that's all we got from Studio 73. We'll see you guys next week.